From the job site to the code book, this is a Pool Envy podcast, where licensed pool professionals speak up. Code, compliance, craftsmanship. Hosted by Jason Davies. Licensed across Wisconsin, Florida, and Texas. Your deep end starts now.
Welcome back. Today, I'm talking about something that sounds like paperwork, but it's not going to be paperwork today, guys. It's liability. That's the difference between this is a normal project and this financial event that's going to take over you and follow you for years. The episode is called The Real Cost of Skipping Permits. And I'm going to say this right out of the gate. Most people think the risk is a fine. The real risk is that you quietly become the contractor of record without meaning to. And then when something goes wrong, you're the one holding the bag. And remember, this liability is going to follow you for years. It doesn't magically just go away because you're the contractor of record. Let's talk about how this usually starts. It starts with this conversation like this. Pay cash and I can do it cheaper. No need to pull a permit. Inspectors just slow things down. Or the big one, just pull the permit as the homeowner. It'll be easier on both of us. That's usually the conversation the unlicensed contractor will have with the homeowner right before things get messy. And that last one, that's a trap. Because in Florida, the owner-builder exemption is very specific. It's not a loophole, it's a responsibility. Florida law requires the owner-builder to provide direct on-site supervision. And it also says you may not hire an unlicensed person to act as your contractor or supervise the work. So when someone tells you, pull the permit and I'll run the job, that's not just a clever workaround. That's often the exact thing the law is trying to prevent from happening. And if you're thinking, okay, but what's the big deal? The work is the work. Here's the big deal. Permits don't just approve construction. Permits assign accountability. They tie a project to a party responsible for code compliance, inspections, and supervision of the job. When you pull a permit as an owner-builder, you're stepping into the role of contractor, even if you never pick up a tool. Now, let's talk about unlicensed for a second, because people toss that word out like it's just semantics. In Florida, unlicensed contracting is a criminal issue. The statute lays out penalties. First offense can be charged as a first-degree misdemeanor, and repeat violations can become a third-degree felony. That's not me being dramatic. That's what the statute says. I read it. You can read it too. Most homeowners aren't trying to break the law. They're trying to save money. They're trying to move a project along. But intent does not stop consequences. Because once a job is in the ground, the problem becomes, how do you prove it was done right? And that's where permits and inspections matter, especially with pools. Pools are not just construction. Pools combine structural work, plumbing, electrical, bonding, gas, drainage, and safety barriers. And there's a lot of ways for that project to become expensive later on. And here's the part homeowners miss often. A pool can look perfect and still be totally unsafe. Now, I want to pull back a certain curtain that most people say is a myth that they hear. And myth number one is this. It's just a simple heater swap. No, it's not. A heater touches fuel, ignition, ventilation, electrical, bonding, water flow, and sometimes automation controls. If something goes wrong, say there's a fire, carbon monoxide leak due to improper ventilation, an electrical fault, a missed breaker install that should be installed, the question won't be, did it look fine or does it heat? The question is going to be, was it installed to code, inspected, and then documented? Myth number two I hear about. I can just say I did the work. This one, super dangerous. Owner-builder rules require you to supervise, and they warn you not to hire an unlicensed person to act as your contractor. So I'll just say I did it can turn into a much bigger problem if you get questioned later on, especially when there's a loss, an injury, or a dispute. Myth number three, permits are overreach. I get it when people say it. I understand the frustration. But here's the truth. Permits are the cheapest accountability system that you can purchase. They create checkpoints. They force minimum standards. They create a paper trail that helps you later. And later is when stuff matters. Because the real cost of skipping permits shows up in three places. Number one, insurance and claims. Number two, resale and financing. And thirdly, forced corrections after the fact. Let's talk about insurance carefully, because I'm not here to promise outcomes and I'm not here to give legal advice, so just remember that. But I will tell you in a practical way, when there's a serious loss, such as fire, and electrocution, structural failures, flooding, insurance carriers and investigators look for causation and documentation, and they look for it diligently. If the loss ties back to faulty workmanship, illegal work, or undisclosed changes, you can end up with coverage disputes, limitations, or denial, depending on the policy language and the facts. Is it automatic? No. Is it a fight you want? Also, the answer to that is no. And here's a really hard example so you can grasp it. A DIY or unpermitted heater installation contributes to a house fire. Even if the fire starts at the equipment pad, it doesn't stay there. Now, you're not just dealing with a broken heater. You're dealing with a major loss and claims process where documentation matters. That's the risk people aren't pricing when they say, save on permits. Now, let's talk resale and financing. Unpermitted work has a way of surfacing at the absolute worst time, right when you're trying to sell, refinance, or insure a property. The point isn't you'll never sell. The point is, if you create a documentation problem, it becomes leverage that can and will be used against you. Now, I want to bring Wisconsin into this because I've been involved in plenty of projects where permits and compliance weren't theory. They were the difference between a pool operating and a pool needing major corrective work. Wisconsin is a great example of why this matters in the public and commercial world. Wisconsin has specific code framework for public pools and water attractions, SPS 390. It applies to the design and construction of public pools and water attractions. On the other side of things, on the public health side, ATCP 76 covers safety, maintenance, and operation of public pools and water attractions. Why am I saying it on a permit episode? Because when a pool is public, HOA, apartment, hotel, municipal, the cost of being wrong is brutal. If something is buried or poured wrong and you can't validate it, fixing it can mean saw-cutting decks, tearing off plaster, tearing out pads, redoing pool plumbing, rerunning bonding wires, reworking safety items. It's expensive stuff. It's disruptive, and no one budgeted for it. And that's why the Wisconsin version of the same lesson, documentation and inspections, aren't for fun. They're for avoiding catastrophic corrections later on. Now, let's bring this episode home. Here is the clean, practical guidance for homeowners, Florida, Wisconsin, Texas, anywhere. First, if someone can't pull a permit, slow down. It doesn't have to get rushed. If a contractor is legitimate, licensed, and insured, pulling permits is part of the normal process and their day-to-day job. It's part of doing business. When they push the permit into your name, ask them why. Second, if you pull an owner-builder permit, treat it like a job title, because it is. Direct supervision means direct supervision. Licensed trades are for licensed work. Inspections called and passed. Records saved. Owner-builder isn't rules. Owner-builder is you are the contractor. Third, stop treating cash as a discount. Sometimes cash is just a payment, but when cash becomes work with no permit, no contract, no invoice, no license, you're actually buying risk. And it's not the contractor buying the risk. It's you. Fourth, remember what a pool really is. It's not a patio. It's a system with safety and liability attached to it. The minute you stop thinking of a pool as a backyard upgrade and start thinking of it as a regulated system, the permit conversation makes far more sense. So here's my bottom line. The real cost of skipping permits isn't the permit fee. It's the financial exposure you create when you lose documentation, lose inspection checkpoints, and lose accountability. And if you take nothing else from this episode, take this. Don't build your pool like it's a secret. Build your pool like you are proud to put your name on it, because when things go wrong, and sometimes they do, the paper trail is what keeps a problem from turning into a disaster. That's it for today. If you know somebody who's planning a pool, a heater swap, a quick pool pump swap, or a basic backyard remodel under the table, send them this episode. Tell them the best time to fix things is before the concrete is poured. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Envy Podcast, where licensed pool professionals speak up. Hosted by Jason Davies, licensed across Wisconsin, Florida, and Texas. For more insights, subscribe and join us next time.